Mr. Kyle Whistle, welcome to the podcast, my friend.
Bro, we've been friends for a long time. This is long overdue. So I'm excited for it.
I would agree. So, for whatever reason, folks that don't know who you are, what your story is, give us the 30,000 foot view.
Yeah, so I run a real estate team in San Diego, California. This team has grown to over 80 agents on the team. We have over 20 staff to support those agents, half locally, half internationally. And then we're part of eXp Realty. Our group there is coming up on 12,000 agents. We are in all 50 states now, and our group is in 6 different countries all across this amazing world that we live in. And married, I got 2 daughters, and I love life. Just had the most epic weekend of my life.
That's right. Right before we hit record, man, you went to the Super Bowl. You went all over the place. You had a great, was it just a men's trip or was it couples? What was it?
I'm in this thing, the topic we're going to hit on today, this is actually something I would recommend to a lot of people in our industry. One thing that I was running into is that, I go to a lot of events and most of them are real estate focused events. And what I found is I was surrounding myself with the top realtors in the country, but they were all realtors. And what I found is like all realtors think the same. Like we're in this lane, we think this one way. And there's so many other lanes on the freeway. And so I wanted to get myself around other business owners that think a little bit differently. So I found this group called Entrepreneur Organization. And in order to be a member of the group, you have to have founded or co-founded your business, and you have to do north of $1 million a year in revenue signed off on by your CPA or proven by your tax returns in order to join this group. And so the overall chapter here in San Diego is over 200 people. And then within your chapter, you have a group. And our group, there's currently 7 people in the group. I got a buddy who flips 1 million+ event tickets a year. I got a guy who launches products on Indiegogo and Kickstarter. I got a guy who does health and wellness products on Amazon. I got a guy who just sold a digital marketing agency for a ridiculous number. I got another guy who does tax law, and I got a mortgage guy. So I got this group of other entrepreneurs, and it's been really good because, I'm running into these problems and they come with solutions that are a little bit different to those problems, which has been really beneficial. They're filling those other lanes on the freeway that my real estate friends don't fill. And so it's been good to surround myself with other big entrepreneurs, and we get to go on an epic trip a year. And so we just got a private jet, went to the Super Bowl, went to the Waste Management Open, got a suite, got to see A$AP Rocky, Machine Gun Kelly, Rihanna. Like it was an insane trip. So I'm living the dream right now.
Well, what's interesting is, Kyle, what you just said, that's been my own experience too. That all of the, call it coaching or consulting that I personally get is from people outside of the space. All of it. All of the masterminds I'm part of, all of the coaches I have right now, all of the consultants I have hired have all been outside of the industry. And it's amazing because of the lens in which other entrepreneurs look through that are succeeding at a very, very high level. And you bring that into our business, it allows you to zig when they zag, right? So that's so cool. So I want to talk about leadership today because, to your point, I think a lot of the content out there is for the real estate agent on how to succeed in selling houses. That's one part of it, certainly. This is a whole new skill. Not a new skill. This is a different skill, rather. It's a completely different skill than that of, selling real estate, succeeding as a solo practitioner, to then leading other human beings and helping other human beings reach their fullest potential. So when did you, well, actually, better question. What led you down this path to say, I want to succeed in and for and through others? When did you make that decision to get into leadership?
Yeah, I think I realized I could only go so far alone. Like there's just a limitation on how far any one individual can go. And if I didn't surround myself with other people, that I would only make it to that level. And I'm somebody, I don't believe there's any ceiling in life. I don't care if it's business, me as a father, me as a husband. I don't like to live life with limits in place or ceilings in place. And so I knew if I wanted to break through that ceiling that I was running into, I had to build something around me. And my story's kind of funny, man. I screwed this up so badly. I got to the point, we used to do a lot of short sales and REO transactions back in the day. And I just started to get all these people that wanted to align with me. And so check this out, like, you know where I'm at now, but back in the day, I had all these leads coming in from my listings, my short sale, my REO listings. And once a week, I would take the list, I would send it over to my buddy and be like, here's a list of leads. See if you can convert any of these. If you do, pay me a referral fee.
Sure.
Like I literally just sent them one time a week, the leads. Like it's crazy to think about where we are today. We're talking about seconds to follow up. It was once a week. So I tried that for a while. I tried having some like agents, but I wasn't really involved. And then I was sitting around on Black Friday one time, and there was like an ad for Dell computers. Like I'll never forget it. And the computers were on some crazy, Black Friday sale. I was like, you know what? F this. I'm going for it. And I just bought 10 computers. Like I didn't have any agents. Right. But I was like, you know what? It's time. Like I'm ready to break through that ceiling. And I just bought 10 computers. And I was like, all right, I have 10 computers. I need an office. And at the time I was in like 100 square foot executive suite. And it was just an assistant and me. And I was like, all right, well, it's time to get an office. So then I leased up an office and I was like, all right, I got computers and I got an office. Now I need people. And basically getting a job with me back then was very similar to getting a mortgage in 2006. Like if you could fog a mirror, you got a spot on my team. And I hired anybody and everybody for my team. I had people that were 20 years old and 120 years old on my team. And I lost my face off that year. I really learned a super valuable lesson in building a team or just building a business, that you really have to understand like who is and who isn't a fit for your team, understand the culture of your team and what's the ideal avatar for somebody who fits your team. So after losing well over 6 figures that year, I started to actually understand like, okay, this is who fits here and who doesn't fit here. And once we really started to figure that out, that was when I had my biggest leap year ever, where we went from 82 transactions to 242 transactions. When I finally got the right people in the right seats on the bus, that was how we really broke through that ceiling of going beyond what I could do as an individual and building a team with the right people in the right seats. And that's really how we got through that next level.
I love it, man. And we're going to unpack all of that in a second. So what year or how long ago did you start your team?
2010 was when I started a team.
All right. Yeah. So you've been doing this for a while. And I love that what you said, because I think that, whether it be marketing or sales or business 101, the new entrepreneur has this scarcity mindset, right? So they try to go after everybody. Their marketing message is anyone, especially realtors, right? I mean, it's like, well, what is your niche? They're like, niche? Anybody that wants to buy or sell a house. What are you talking about, Brandon? Kyle, niche? And so the same thing is with leadership and building a business. I love what you said. Once you got clear on, hey, this is who this team is for, and this is who this team is not for, it became very clear on who should be on the bus and who shouldn't be on the bus. Because we're not trying to recruit every Tom, Dick, and Harry. We're trying to put the right people in place so that we can all win. And I see that with new leaders is the same. They start to behave the same way they did when they were a salesperson. They just try to recruit anybody. You got a pulse, to your point. I love it. So let's talk about the standards of what it means to be on the team nowadays. Like, what are we looking for? What is that avatar? What is the process that you guys go through in hiring an agent on the team?
Yeah, so core values is one of those things that I'm just like most people out there. We say we have these core values. We probably spent like an hour one day where we like wrote some shit down. We're like, these are my core values. And like, maybe you put them on a piece of paper. Maybe you put them on the wall. Maybe you did a little this, little that. But like, did those core values really mean something to you? Are those your true core values? And if they are, do you live them? Do you hire to them? Do you fire to them?
That's
do
right.
you raise people to them? Like, do you truly, truly embody them? And so we run a system in our business called EOS, Entrepreneurial Operating System. And one of the exercises that was part of implementing EOS into our business was really going through and nailing down what those core values are in our business. And it was a 3-month process to bringing these core values in. Like, it wasn't a 3-minute process. It was a 3-month process. to really get these core values into our business and make sure they're the right core values, and how are we fully going to integrate them. And now they are everything in our business. They're non-negotiables. Like if you are not in alignment with the core values, there is not a spot for you on this team. We talk about our core values every single week. Like as soon as we're done here, we're going to have our office meeting. The first thing we're going to do before we go into any content is go into core values and acknowledging people who were in alignment in support of those core values in the last week. One of my favorite things, and I hope some of you will take this away, is, we do these award ceremonies every year. And one of the things that I found is it's so easy for us to acknowledge our agents for their sales, right? It's easy. There's metrics, right? Simple. How many homes do you sell?
Objective.
What was your volume? What was your
GCI?
Yeah. Right? But there's so many other things that happen, and people don't get acknowledged for those things. And so what we do every year now is we do a vote amongst everybody in the company, and you get to vote, who do you believe embodied this core value the most over the course of the last year, and why? And it's so cool to see, because a lot of my admin, my support team ends up winning those awards. A lot of my up and coming agents win those awards. It's not always the top dog who sells the most houses. It's other people. And those acknowledgments are so valuable. And it's so cool to see the reaction of the people that get the awards, and they get to hear what their peers are saying about them. Like that's been a huge one. Like that's, of all the things I've implemented in the last 5 years, that's like top 5 for sure, is those core value awards. Those have been a hit. So we go through those in the hiring process. Like we talk, hey, here are our core values. Tell me about an example of this core value. Tell me an example how this has played out in your life. And we go deep into that. We really want to make sure people are in alignment with those core values. So I think that's a huge thing in our hiring process. We also make our expectations very, very clear, both directions, right? Bilaterally. Here's what we expect out of you, and here's what you can expect out of us in return. Do you see any issues with that? Because if there is, that's totally fine, right? The way we do things isn't the only way. It's just the way that we do them, right? If you love to get out there and you want to knock doors all day long, you want to run newspaper ads, you want to do all this stuff, you could be successful with that. It's just not necessarily how we do things here. So are you in alignment with what we do and what we expect out of you and what you can expect from us? And we make sure we get all that stuff out on the table up front so that there's no surprises. I've seen so many people, join companies and, 30 days later, they're gone because they didn't understand what they were getting into. So we like to spend more time up front to really set expectations in both directions. So I think those were a couple of things.
Yeah, dude. I mean, that's so good. I mean, and I want to go deep on a couple of those things, Kyle, and then we'll move on to something else. But when it comes to core values, you nailed it. The thing I wrote down is everyone in this industry talks about, like, they throw around the word culture, like culture. It's like, okay, what real culture means is exactly what you said. And that means that we hold people accountable to those core standards, regardless of production. Like if you're not in alignment with these beliefs, I don't care if you're the mega producer, but you're a bad human being, and we'll unpack some of your core values in a second. You can't be here. It's not just about production. That was number one. Number two, the People's Choice Award, right? That's what we have every year. And the people vote on that based on the person who is carrying what we call the torch of our culture, who's living out those core beliefs. I mean, it's so key. It's the baseline fundamental of how to win in business. Yet so many new entrepreneurs fall victim to just focusing on production, which is a big piece. Don't get me wrong. But, if you've got somebody who produces a lot, but nobody can stand to be around them, and people start leaving the team and turnover because, like, dude, I'm not working with that motherfucker every day. I'm sorry. Dude, that guy is a fucker, and I'm not working with him. It's like, is it worth it? Because you're trying to protect the whole. So can you unpack some of the core values that you hire to, that you hold people to?
Yeah. So we have come from contribution, which means just do what you can to contribute to the rest of the team internally, but also externally. We love to do a lot of community service. I own a nonprofit. So we're constantly looking for opportunities to get out and volunteer in the community to give back. We have experience and share. So we always have new agents coming in. Any given month, we have 5 to 10 new agents coming into this company. and that everybody comes from, different backgrounds. I mean, I've had people from different cities, different states, different countries, different continents coming in here, right? And the experiences that they bring immigrating into the US, taking some of those experiences, sharing those with others. We have San Diego is a huge military town. So, our team members who've been in the military before, being able to share their experiences of, hey, here's what it's like being in the military. Here's how you can talk to people that are in the military better, that are going through things. So we have experience and share. We have with positivity, which is a big one. It's not that you have to be all sunshine and rainbows all the time. Yay. There's shit that's going to happen to you in this industry. But as long as you can keep a positive mindset about it and think about failing forward effectively, right? Like, damn, that sucks, that happened, but what can I learn from that? How can I put a positive spin on that? I don't need you. I'm not the most bubbly guy by any means. So just kind of taking that positive mindset. We have grow or die, which is a huge one, right? Like, this is an industry. If you're not growing, if you're not consistently adding people to your team, if you're not adding things to your repertoire, if you're not growing, you're literally dying in this industry. So I think that that's a huge one. And then be the solution. This is one of those, don't just bitch about stuff. There's so many times it's like, oh, the printer doesn't work. Be the solution. Get on the phone and call the damn printer company. Don't complain to everybody, right?
Yeah.
Find ways to be the solution, to make shit happen. If you see somebody struggling, just step in, be the solution, get shit done for them. So those are the 5 core values that we have in our company.
It's amazing, because when you are so clear on those as a leader, it makes it very simple to make leadership decisions, and for the team member to understand, am I behaving in alignment with these 5 core beliefs, or am I not? And there's no grayness. This is what it is. I love that.
Yeah.
So,
and literally every quarter, every person in the company has to do a self-evaluation. Every single agent, employee, every person in the company does a self-evaluation on core values. And they're either answering, I'm constantly exhibiting this, sometimes or never. And they're going through a self-evaluation. And so agents, if they're out of alignment on more than one, there's not a spot for them on the team. And on our admins, those self-evaluations are part of the review process. That's part of, are you getting a raise or not? Those are factored into that.
I love it. Well, it's so funny. What just hit me, Kyle, is exactly how we started this episode. In that, if people didn't know we were talking about real estate, they think we were talking about another industry. And that's the key thing, is you're running your team like a Fortune 500 company. And so that's the key takeaway for all you guys listening or watching this on YouTube. If you have aspirations to building a successful real estate, I'll call it business, whether that be at a brokerage or a team or whatever, you have to run it like an actual company outside of our industry runs. Because if you run it ego-based and it's like the wild, wild west, it just ain't going to work. So let's talk about team production. What did you guys end up with in 2022?
Last year, 533 units, and it was a little under 400 million last year.
Unbelievable.
This year, we're already over 100 million, which is insane because we're here in early February. So we have come out guns blazing this year.
I guess so.
Insane, dude.
So let's get into that a bit. So 400 million. And so in GCI, what did that look like last year?
It was 12 million.
Got it. Okay.
Around
12 million. Yeah. All right. So let's kind of walk through the structure of the team. I know you mentioned you've got support team members. It sounds like they're W-2. And then you've got salespeople. Walk us through the structure of the group.
Yes. There's 3 primary types of people in our company. There are salespeople, and then there's our support team, which is then split into 2. We have our local support team and then our international support team, which that word international is a huge change that we made. They're VAs, right? They are a VA, but it's amazing what happens when you change just the name from, our VAs versus our international team.
Yeah.
Changes so much. One, it changes things with our clients because they're like, oh, wow, you guys employ people across the nation, as opposed to you apply a bunch of virtual people. It's crazy how that changes. But it also, something that I found that could be tough sometimes, our salespeople didn't have the right level of respect for our virtual assistants.
Absolutely.
No joke, dude. Some of them thought they were fucking robots. No, these are real human beings.
Yeah.
you think it was a fucking robot doing all this work? Like they legitimately thought that. So
Wow.
by using the name international team, like that was a huge shift that really helped a lot. And it made them feel more valued too,
Sure.
which I think is really important. And then I should say, I guess there's four. Within our sales team, there's inside sales and outside sales. I'm a huge proponent of, there's this problem I see in a lot of real estate teams where team leaders, they get so obsessed with how many leads they give to their agents. And the agents get obsessed with like, I want to be on a team where I get leads. Well, like lead is a very, very loose term, right?
For sure.
Let's talk about like, you could do a lot of damage trying to give your agents leads. Because if you're spending all your money and you're giving them nothing but pay-per-click leads and social media leads, and when I say social leads, I'm not talking relationship, I'm talking social media ad leads. Like the conversion rate on those for most teams across the country is a fraction of a percent.
Yep.
0.5% probably on average for most teams. And here's what ends up happening is I'm thinking I'm doing a good thing because I'm like, all right, Brandon, here you go. I gave you 100 leads last month. So I think I'm doing a solid. But then what ends up happening is you can't convert shit. You don't convert any of the leads. You start getting frustrated and stop making phone calls. And then I start getting frustrated. I'm like, Brandon, what the hell? Why aren't you calling those leads? And you're like, fuck you. You call these leads. They suck.
Yeah.
And we end up in this vicious cycle spiraling, right? Where you're mad at me because of the quality of lead. I'm mad at you because you're not following up. I don't think that that's a good idea in business. So for us, all those leads that we know historically convert at like 1% or less, we don't give those directly to the agents. Those go to our inside sales team. On average, like we've been tracking this over, I think the last 30,000 leads, it's taking us 25 contact attempts just to get it in conversation with those damn leads.
Sure.
25.
Yeah.
There's no agent in the world that's going to do that consistently ever.
Yeah. Yeah.
So our inside sales team is great at that. And they're obviously using AI technology. They're using automations and stuff to help facilitate that. But they're so much more persistent. And now the beauty is instead of this relationship where you and I are butting heads, now these ISAs are like, hey, Brandon, you're meeting the Smith family at 123 Main Street Friday at 2:00. He's a high D personality. She's a high I personality. They owe $400,000. They want $600,000. The comps, Redfin says it's worth $550. This is where they're going. This is when they want to get there. And here's a couple other keynotes about that.
Phenomenal.
Now, instead of fighting, now I'm teeing you up with high quality appointments. Because I also see people say like, oh yeah, we set appointments, and an appointment is like, call this guy Friday at 2. Like that's not fucking. Like so they're going really deep.
I mean, let's stick there, because if I don't, the audience will just have a field day. Like, why didn't you unpack that? Like that's the meat. So I know there's a lot of nuance, Kyle. We don't got time for all of it, but I am curious. If you could just walk us through maybe that conversion funnel so we can get clear on, okay, how many leads per month, how many ISAs are calling those, and then how many appointments get generated out of those for how many salespeople to convert, and kind of maybe just high level, don't have to go crazy in the weeds, but like getting understanding of that conversion funnel would be really helpful.
Yeah, I would say that each ISA is probably taking in about 200 new leads a month.
Okay.
That are new inbound leads. Our database is, we just merged with another team. So we're up to 120,000 leads in the database on top of that. So they've got about 200 new leads coming in addition to each of them have, probably 10,000, because obviously the 120, a lot of those are assigned to agents and whatnot, but they're all probably assigned over 10,000 additional leads on top of that. Okay. Our goal, and this is something I found that's really important, is make sure you're comparing apples to apples. I am in San Diego, California. There are 36,000 licensees, and there's less than 36,000 transactions that happen here in MLS.
Crazy.
Right? Where you are, it's totally different, right?
Totally different.
You got to make sure you're comparing people in the same market or very similar markets. Like I can compare to somebody in LA, right? I can compare to somebody in San Francisco. I can't compare to somebody in Detroit, right? We're just such different markets. So when I tell you our numbers, some of you might, that's it. But some people in San Francisco are like, oh, that's actually pretty good. So make sure you're comparing apples to apples with this stuff. Same thing with like unit count, right? Like we've got some friends there, Z and some other people up there, right, that are selling 1,000 per now, like 1,000 plus homes a year. And we're selling like 500.
That still don't get to 400 million. That still don't go to 400 million. That's the nuance, everyone. Is like, you're exactly right. Our teams that do 1,000 units in Detroit, don't get to 400 million. We get to
Right.
200 million on 1,000 units. You do 500 units and do 400 million. It's
Yep. So
crazy.
you got to make sure, like, this is one of the things I think people screw up all the time, whether they're watching a YouTube video, a podcast, see somebody on stage. Like, one, always try to compare volume over units. Units is not the best comparison because it actually starts to equalize a little bit when you compare volume. But also make sure you're comparing people in similar markets to you. If you're in the Midwest and you do, blue collar bread and butter 200 to 300, compare yourself to other people doing that. If you're, my buddies in New York City, don't compare yourself to somebody in Kentucky. Like, you just don't do that. Compare yourself to people that are in similar markets to you. So our ISAs, my goal is 1 med appointment per day. Like, that's what we're targeting.
1 med appointment per day.
Yeah.
That's
awesome. And then their pay structure, I see people screw this ISA stuff up so many ways, and I've done all of them. Your ISAs cannot be virtual or international. I think that's a huge miss. It can't be a temporary position. You can't bring somebody in, you're going to be an ISA for 90 days and then you can be an agent. You can't even get a pipeline built in 90 days as an ISA.
Amen.
Like that.
Say that one more time just so everyone heard it. You can't do what?
You cannot even get a pipeline built in 90 days. We've learned 6 months is where we expect to see stuff come out the other end of the pipeline.
That's right.
6 months. That's what we've seen historically to get somebody in, get them ramped up, using the systems, getting the nurtures going, setting the appointments, then they turn into meds, then they turn into contracts, and finally closings. 6 months minimum.
That's right.
You also can't pay them like shit. If you pay them like shit, they are going to leave you very quickly and want to go be an agent. Like, my goal, my ISA is to make $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 a year, like, to make a decent living, right?
Yeah.
Because I found there's a lot of people that have a real estate license that want to be in the industry, but they don't want to be working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, running around on the weekends, putting out open house signs, doing the whole deal. They would prefer something that's more like a 9 to 5. Not that ours are exactly that, but something more similar to a 9 to 5. I clock in, I put my time in, I clock out, right? I get benefits.
Yeah. I would say most. I would make the argument, Kyle, sorry to butt in for just a second. I would say most in real estate would prefer that. After they get in and learn what it is and how hard it is, they retract and say, shoot, dude, I would be better off just getting to 60 to 80K a year, doing my 9 to 5, no weekends. I don't have to worry about client. I don't have to do any of that stuff. I would say most that would appeal to. Anyway, I digress. Keep going.
Sure. Yeah. So they're on a salary with benefits, which is great. Then they get bonuses 2 different ways. They're all licensed. So they get bonuses, one for qualified appointments met, not appointments set, not appointments met, qualified appointments met.
Can you define that?
What determines a qualified appointment is the agent stating that that person is looking to transact, ready, willing, and able to transact in the next 6 months.
Got it.
So if the agent goes and meets with somebody and it's, the guy or girl who's waiting on the insurance settlement because they slipped and fell at IKEA and they're going to get $10 million, like, that's not a qualified appointment. So ready, willing, and able to transact within the next 6 months. If the agent says no, then the ISA is not getting paid on that appointment. And obviously there's somebody that monitors it and makes sure that the agents aren't screwing the ISAs. But so it's got to be qualified appointments met. And then they do get a percentage of the closing.
Sure.
I like attaching them to the same outcome as the agent because they will actually help monitor the agent to a certain extent, right? They're going to make sure the agent doesn't drop the ball because they've got some skin in the game. So they won't just set the appointment, walk away. They'll check back on that appointment regularly, see how it's going, see if there's an opportunity to step back in. Maybe the lead gets cold, they can reheat it for them. So they stay involved all the way through to the closing.
So how many of them do you have? How many ISAs are on the team?
We have 6 right now. So we have 6 ISAs. But what we've done too, I should clarify, with our agents, they don't feed all the agents in the company.
Okay.
We've broken, at our size, we've broken our agents into teams. So we have an ISA team. We have a Zillow Flex team. We have an OpCity team. The issue we were running into there was agents would come in and I would give them 2 or 3 OpCity leads a month, 1 or 2 Flex leads, and like maybe 1 or 2 appointments a month. I had no idea if you were good at anything.
Yeah.
Because I was just giving you a couple of these, couple of those. So what we did is we broke it in. Now you're in one of those 3 teams. Now, if you're on the Flex team, you're going to get 8 to 10 Flex connections a month, which should turn into 1 closing. Same thing on OpCity. If you're on the ISA team, I just need to get you 5 to 6 appointments a month because that should turn into at least 1 closing. So we've broken our company into teams, and now you're just focused on that. And right, the way you handle an ISA appointment is very different than a flex or an op city connection.
So
And
you
so then
found
you're
that specialization for you guys. You have found that makes the most sense.
it's worked way better for us, and the agents like it better too, and it's more predictable, and we can regulate the size of the teams to make sure we get the agents the flow that's necessary, because my goal is my agents can do a transaction a month from our leads. That's what we strive for.
And then in the agent teams that are specialized by lead source, are they broken out again by buyers sellers, or they can list and work with buyers as well?
So to circle back, we talked about our expectations from the agent. Based on those expectations, we rank our agents into 4 quartiles. And based on the quartile determines whether or not they can get buyers or sellers. It also breaks down what price points they can get as well. So as you move up the quartiles, that opens you up to get listing appointments and or the bigger price point buyer and sellers.
Phenomenal, Kyle. I mean, you have a real operation. I mean, that's why I wanted to have you on the show, because I wanted to give people an audience just like to expand their mind of like what a real team looks like. And you have one of the best teams in the world. So how many outside sales people do you have? You've got 6 inside. What do you have on the outside?
It's right around 80 right now. We got a class in that room over there. There's 7 more coming on board right now. So
80 realtors, or is that some support, or 80 sales?
No, that's realtors.
Wow.
Yeah, we just merged with another team that was one of my competitors at one point. We decided to join forces. So that added 13 agents recently to our team. So we were, at the end of last year, we were around 60 something between that merger and the team in the other room right now. That got us up to about 80.
Got it. All right. So you had mentioned that of the team generated opportunities, you want your agents, the expectation or standard, if you will, is, hey, we need a deal a month. Is there an expectation that they bring something to the table off their self-generated activities?
Yeah. So what I've learned when people come in the business in the beginning, they're going to do a lot of deals from us and a little bit of deals on their own.
That's right.
Over time, that's going to stabilize. And then in perfect world, we built a model that will retain them to where they start to do a lot of deals on their own. They don't need as much from us. So it just depends on where the agent's at. I mean, my last class, I brought 2 agents in who've sold 100 plus homes before. Right. But I've also brought in agents who've never just got their license a month ago. So we bring in a big mix of agents. So it just depends on the agent. But my goal is to get them to the point where we're providing enough that they can do a deal a month from our leads. And then ideally, I'd love to get them to where they're doing a deal a month from their own leads as well. But I have an understanding that's not going to happen in year 1. If it does, fantastic. But usually that's about 2 years in that they're going to get to that point where we start to stabilize. And then at that point, they're doing 24 deals, which again, 24 deals here at an average price point of 100, right? You're a $15, $20 million producer at that point.
It's incredible. So can you break down your lead? So if you did, let's call it 533 units, do you know roughly the percentage of what's coming from where? Like, hey, we got this from internet leads, this from open houses, this from direct mail, whatever the case may be.
Off the top of my head, no, but I'll tell you the top 3 sources for us is Sphere, number 1, referral, number 2, Zillow Flex 3, open house 4. I guess those are our top 4. But Sphere and referrals huge. We love that. We push that on our agents heavy to really get after that. We do 4 client events a year, which are a huge part of it. And I try to tell my agents, like, look, the event is cool. I really don't care if they come to the event. If they do, that's icing on the cake. I'm throwing the event to give you a reason to call the damn client.
That's right.
And because it's hard to call somebody you haven't talked to in a while.
For
hey,
sure.
have you found a home yet? Like, that's a hard phone call to make.
Yeah.
It's a way easier phone call to call and say, hey, Brandon, I want to make sure you got the invitation. We rented out a movie theater. We got the hot new movie. It's going to be super fun. I'd love for you and your wife to come. Like, that's a much easier phone call. So we do 4 client events a year just to ensure our agents are getting back in contact with their clients. We just ran like a promo for Valentine's Day. We booked reservations. This is a really good one, by the way. We booked reservations at like 40 restaurants all around Southern California. And then we just ran post on social. We emailed our database and just said, hey, if you forgot to book a reservation for Valentine's Day, we got you covered. We got reservations all over town. And then it's gotten all of us, all of our agents into conversations with clients. And now we're saving some of our clients' ass that forgot to book a dinner reservation. Now we're the hero. And like, that costs $0. Like all that was spending a few hours setting up a bunch of dinner reservations, put a thing up on social, send an email. And now our agents are in conversations all over the place. So we try to do a lot from the leadership side of things to help facilitate our agents getting into conversations, because it's tough. I mean, you have days where it's hard to get on the phone and make phone calls. So if you can get a couple inbound here and there, it gets you kind of excited. You start feeling good again, and now you're more likely to make some outbound too.
Yeah, I love it. Couple more real quick, and we'll just go rapid fire on these. But is there like an income that you as the leader of the group says, hey, I want our average agent income, if we're hitting this number, or per agent productivity, whatever. I know you said a deal a month, 12 a year. What does that average out for income at the end of the day?
100 grand, the same thing it is there.
Yeah, love it.
We actually ran it. We're off on it right now. I want to bring it back, but we've been ran $100,000 guarantee. If you join our team and you follow the program, you run that, like I've played a lot of sports growing up. If you run the play that's called,
that's right,
you will make $100,000+ net on my team. If you just run the freaking play that's called. Now, if you fuck off and go do all kinds of other stuff and don't do what the play was called, you're not going to make that. And you actually get disqualified from the guarantee. Like I'm so confident that if you follow it, I will fill in the void. If you actually ran the play that was called all year and you don't make 100, like I'm confident enough I'll stroke the check for the difference, because I know I will never stroke that check.
Right.
Because if you did it, you'll make the money. And if you didn't make the money, it's because you didn't do it. So I will never stroke that check once in my life, because I know I can tell anybody how to make the money. It's not hard. You just got to run the play that's called.
Yeah, I love it. And I make the argument, and I know you, I don't know if you know this, but like I position a lot of what I coach to, that I make the case, Kyle, that most agents should be on a team. Because when you look at all the nuance and the operational minutia that you have going on, the solo agent, there's just no chance that they can figure all that out. And you can just go into Kyle's world and just run the play and earn the income. Like that's what we're here to do, right? And so many agents, the reason why they fight it so bad is, as you know, ego, right? I want to be my own guy, my own girl, whatever. I want my name on the signs, yada, yada, yada. Well, how do you communicate that to people that maybe struggle with, I'm building Kyle's brand versus my own brand? Like, what's your position on that whole argument?
I tell them God's honest truth. If I move to Detroit, I'm calling you or Mark Z and joining your team. Straight up. Like I am. Even knowing everything that I know, I've sold over $3 billion worth of real estate. I would still, if I move to a new market, I am joining a team. Me, Kyle Whistle, I'm calling you. I'm calling Mark.
I've said that too.
Straight up, I'm going to learn on your dime.
Yeah.
Like, that's fine. I'm still going to build my brand, because I've had so many people come and they were like, I need to build my brand. I need my own YouTube channel. I need all this shit. I'm like, nobody gives a fuck about you until you start selling houses. Yeah. You want to build a brand? Go sell houses. And the more houses you sell, the more people are going to follow you. Nobody's going to follow you if you can't sell a house to save your life. So get in here and sell as many freaking houses as you can. And you're going to end up in, one of two scenarios. I've got people who've come on my team and they've worked their face off for 2 years and built a good business and said, hey, I'm ready. I'm going to do this on my own. And thanks to the structure of the company we're at, if they leave me, they still stay with the company. And now the company incentivizes me to help them grow, which is great.
And there's, in my opinion, real quick, I think there's no better compliment to a leader than what you just said, where you've groomed this person from a leadership standpoint. You've done such a great job as a leader that as a result of the leadership, they come to you and Kyle and say, you've done such a great job with me that now I'm going to go and do this just like you've taught me. You've been a great sensei. Thank you so much. And in your world at EXP, that's the best thing ever. It's like, that's what the goal is. And I think a lot of people that have a scarcity mindset, a lot of these new leaders, and I know you got to get going to your meeting, they're trying to like hide behind that. And my goal as a leader is always like, the goal of a leader is to, so funny, Jeff Glover just posted this. I know you know Jeff too. He just posted this on his Facebook page last night. And I was like, that's 100% spot on. The job of a leader, of one that has great confidence, is to replace him or herself. I mean, that's the goal of a leader. And if you're trying to, trick people into staying with you a long time, I think you're doing a disservice. I think that's the best compliment you could get from somebody based on what you just said. That's my opinion anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I was at the Super Bowl this weekend, right? Andy Reid just won it, but he has spawned so many amazing coaches off of him, right? Like Doug Peterson who was literally one of his offensive coordinators at one
That's
point
right.
and moved on to be a head coach and won a Super Bowl with the Eagles. Bill Parcells is known for having, I think he's got 5 or 6 people who were on his staff at one point as a coordinator in some capacity that have gone on to win Super Bowls. Like, that's a huge compliment. I want nothing more. As long as somebody leaves them on good terms.
Absolutely. Yeah. Amicably. Like, that's the plan, right? Is like, it's the best way to measure a leader is how many leaders have they spawned off? How many leaders and team leaders are out there because of Kyle Whistle's leadership? There's no better, measurement of leadership than how many leaders you've created, right?
Sure.
So what's next for you guys? What is the goal this year? You were going to get into that. You've already done over 100 million. What is the goal for 2023?
Yeah, it's 750 units, and I should know the volume number off the top of my head, but I did just get back from 4 days of going hard at the Super Bowl. So I don't remember the volume number, but I know it's 750 units. Figure out an average price of 800,000. Yeah. That's I don't know, it's around 612 if I remember correctly. 612,750 units.
It's a lot. Yeah, 600 million. Wow, unbelievable. Yeah. So if somebody's watching, Kyle, or listening to the podcast and they want to talk to you about joining the team or joining your group at EXP, where's the best place for them to do that?
Yeah, I keep it simple. DM me on Instagram. I'm at Kyle Whistle. I don't make some stupid name up, make it hard to find me at Kyle Whistle. Just shoot me a DM. I'd love to have a combo. And then, Brandon, there's one that I have to get out that's a leadership specific.
Please.
This was like one of the most impactful coaching moments I ever had. I had a coach who asked me, he said, "Hey, Kyle, how many real estate events did you go to last year to learn how to sell more homes?" I was like, "We'll just make up numbers." I went to 10. Okay, great. How many days were you gone at those events? Average events like 3 days. Okay, so you spent 30 days at events. Okay. How much money did you spend going to those events? We figured that out. It was like so he just went through like this exercise. I was like, all right, cool. And he's like, "Let me ask you this. How many events did you go to last year to learn how to be a better leader?" And I was just like, shit.
Yeah.
Like, I literally spent 30 days of the year at events on how to sell more houses, but I spent 0 days going to anything specifically focused on how to be a better leader. And crazy. That was like a huge impactful moment in my life, was to think about that. Like, I'm so focused on selling more homes. I'm not thinking about being a better leader. And so from that point on, now I've obsessed over it, reading different books about leadership, following different people's podcasts, again, getting outside the industry. And that was a really impactful moment. So if you're watching this or listening, like, I want to challenge you. How much time, energy, attention, money are you putting into being a better leader versus just figuring out how to sell more houses? Because the process of selling houses doesn't change. Like,
that's right.
I know the coaches want to tell you about this new app, the new AI, all this new bullshit, but like, the fundamentals aren't going to change of how to sell houses. So quit spending so much time worrying about the new widget and spend more time learning how to be a better leader, and you'll have a massive exponential impact on your growth as a person and as a leader.
Well said. And I couldn't agree more. That's why I wanted to have you on the show, because I think we need to talk. So we need to do more content and education around leadership. And to your point, there's enough out there on how to sell a house, right? But we need to be people that serve others in this industry. That's how we help this industry win, And so anyway, man, great conversation. I didn't plan on keeping you for 45 minutes, but that's what happens when we have a good conversation. So, dude, I appreciate it. We'll link to all Kyle's social, and he will get back to you on Instagram DM. He always does. I'll put his handle underneath this video. Kyle, appreciate you very much, my friend.
All right, it's been fun, bro. We'll do this again soon.
All right, talk to you soon.